In this video, we're going to discuss what separates an advanced player's defence from a beginner or intermediate player's defence, and most importantly, what you can do to improve your defence and get to that next level.
The first of 4 key areas we have for you is your shot quality and choice. We've combined these together because you might think that you've played a good quality defensive shot, but if your opponent is in position and waiting for it, then it won't be a good shot to select. Or, in contrast, you might play a worse quality shot into space, which could actually be a good selection. But generally, the better the player, the better shot quality they have. And they play shots that put their opponents into difficult positions. So, how can you make sure that your defensive shots are the right choice and also high quality?
Well, we have 2 suggestions because we typically see players fall into one of 2 buckets, which is preventing them from progressing to that next level. Bucket 1 is players who try to relift everything. This is often because they feel under pressure and want to lift to give themselves more time to recover.
Yeah, but because they're under pressure, this relift is often straight or to the middle, meaning they're not moving their opponent. And most crucially, the relifts often get shorter and shorter until the opponent has an easy smash.
In bucket 2 are players who always try to hit a winner, like an amazing cross-court block that skims the net tape and lands right on the line. But the better players don't fall into either bucket, and instead they find the right balance between all of their shots.
Yeah, this is where we see a huge difference between both beginner to intermediate players and intermediate to advanced players. The better players will always be making quick assessments. For example, in doubles, is the weaker player at the back? Or are the opponents really pressuring the front court? If so, in these situations, they'll choose to play a relift or a flat drive. Or another example, is the net player trying to move to the back? Or are they only stood on the tee? If so, in these situations, they'll choose to play a block to the side.
Now, it's all well and good knowing when to use the right shots, but it's no use if you don't have the technical ability to actually play them. Technique is a huge area preventing players getting to that next level. But the good news is it's not too late to change your technique.
Yeah, we've worked with people who thought they were stuck with their bad habits after 30 years of playing. But with purposeful training, they've transformed their technique to help them win a lot more matches.
Exactly. So the first key technical point stopping players getting their defence to that next level is their grip. And the biggest difference we see between beginners and intermediate players is using the correct grip. We see so many players try to use a forehand grip in defence. This works in singles, and we'll link our singles defence video up here as we're mainly focusing on doubles in this video. But yeah, it doesn't work in doubles. It's kind of like trying to eat chunky soup with a fork. It sometimes works, but there's a lot of gaps and it gets messy.
Instead, you need to defend in a backhand grip. This means you can generate more power, and you have more coverage from here all the way to here, whereas the forehand grip exposes big gaps. If you're not sure on the different grips and you want more detail on them, we've done an entire video on the 4 grips in badminton. So if you haven't seen that, we'd recommend checking it out after this. We'll include a link in the description below.
The biggest differences we then see between intermediate and advanced players is having a loose grip. Having a loose grip and then tightening or squeezing it when you actually strike the shuttle helps you generate more power. Looking at the relifts again, if I already have a tight and tense grip, I struggle to get the shuttle past this point. But if I have a loose grip and squeeze at the right moment, I can now get my shot a lot further back.
And the second thing that players do better as they progress is shorten their swing. You might think that badminton is like using a slingshot. The more backswing you have, the further your shot will go. And this might be right to an extent, but it's really hard to time your defensive shot with a bigger swing. And a big swing generally leads to a big follow through, so you won't be as ready for the next shot. This is why the better players use a short swing.
Okay, so far we've discussed how your shot quality and choice and technical ability can take your defence to that next level. But in doubles, you've got a partner, and working together in defence is where we see a huge difference between both beginner to intermediate players and intermediate to advanced players.
Yeah, so the first difference is how the more advanced players move together as a pair, whereas beginners and some intermediate players just take a half court each. Now, this isn't the most efficient way to defend because it exposes a big gap here in the middle, and it becomes really confusing as to whose shot it is. If you watch the more advanced pairs, you'll notice that if the attacker is on the same half as them, then they stand around here, covering the tramline, and their partner, who's on the other side of the court, would stand around here to cover the middle, and they face the attacker like this.
You might think with this setup, what about the big gap here? Well, a cross-court shot has the longest distance to travel, so if you hit a good lift, you have a lot more time to react and get it back. This is also a pretty risky shot from your opponents, as it means you can play a straight shot up the line and into space.
This isn't a static setup though. With each shot, you as the defensive pair should be moving together. Think of it like you've got a fixed piece of rope between you, and you want to keep it tight at all times. If you or your partner lifts to the other side, then you'd move together across the court like this. Defending as a pair means that you're constantly minimising the gaps that your opponents can play into, and you make it obvious to each other whose shot it is.
The second difference we see is that advanced players are always trying to set each other up. Exactly how you set each other up depends on your individual playing style and also your partnership playing style. If you're not sure about your playing style, we recently made a video on this which we'll link in the description below. It turns out there's a lot of videos for you to watch after this, but here is one quick example of how advanced players set each other up when they're in defence. If you're playing with someone who is a net ninja, aka they're amazing at the net, then rather than hit a lot of defensive drives and relifts, you should play more blocks. This means that your partner can quickly move forwards towards the net. Remember, you need to work together as a pair.
The fourth key area that separates an advanced player's defence from a beginner or intermediate player is their belief that being in defence doesn't mean that the point is over. So many players think as soon as they play a bad shot, oh no, I've lost this point. But the better players focus on going from the rally being say 20% in their favour and 80% to the opponents, to then 30-70 on the next shot, and then 40-60 and so on. And like we said in the first key area, this isn't by going for an outrageous winner. It's by keeping composure, having a short swing, and trying to hit just away from their opponent's rackets.
Yeah, but it's important to not play too safe. This can lead to your movement slowing down, your shot quality decreasing, and you end up gifting your opponent an even easier shot. Instead, focus on simple but crucial things, like lifting right into the corner or trying to take your shot early.
All of this takes composure and consistency, and to ensure that you can do it in a match, you will need to practice it. Unfortunately, there's no substitute for purposeful practice at high intensity.
And if you want some ideas of different practices you can do, we'd recommend checking out this video next. Another video for you to watch. Hopefully you now understand what is stopping you getting to that next level and also how you can improve some of these areas. If you've enjoyed this video, then please drop it a like, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll hopefully see you on another video very soon. There's a lot to choose from.